It's not very often an automotive company is born out of a car racing company and then goes on to dominate the automobile industry. Led by Bruce McLaren, McLaren Automotive did just that, and quite spectacularly too. It is well known that Bruce McLaren eventually went on to become the founder of one of the biggest and most successful car manufacturing and racing companies in the world. But how exactly did McLaren Automotive go from a mere dream to a household name revered for its super-fast cars? What were the most significant cars in its storied past? We thought we would look at the abilities and achievements of the McLaren brand by answering these questions, and many more you might have about McLaren's history. So stay tuned. The McLaren story starts with its owner Bruce McLaren, who set a place for himself in history when he joined Cooper's racing team and won the 1959 Sebring Grand Prix. In doing so, he became one of the youngest drivers in Formula One history to win a Grand Prix at only 22 years and 104 days old. By 1963, Bruce formed McLaren Motor Racing, and the first McLaren racing vehicle, the M1A, was manufactured a year later, with a total of 24 units of the car seeing production. Its successor, the M1B, allowed McLaren to compete in the Can-Am Championship, where they won 43 races, nearly 3 times as many as competitors like Porsche. By 1965, they were able to debut the first McLaren Formula One vehicle, the M2B, at the Monaco Grand Prix. As the McLaren racing team began to see success in Formula One, Bruce McLaren became one of only 2 people to win a Grand Prix while driving the McLaren M7A. It was only the start of McLaren's successes, and they also saw success in other motorsport categories. In 1967, McLaren Racing won 5 out of 6 races in the Can-Am Series. In the same year, they won their first Formula One Grand Prix. They won 4 of 6 Can-Am Series, and then the following year, they won all of the 11 races of the season. After his successes in time in the F3, McLaren was constructing and testing a prototype M6 GT, registered OBH 500H, a light sports vehicle with an estimated peak speed of 165 miles per hour and a 0 to 100 mile per hour time of 8 seconds. Unfortunately, Bruce died in a vehicle accident, testing a prototype in 1970 before the project could be finished. When Bruce died, Teddy Meyer took command and guided the team to their first F1 Constructors title in 1974. As part of the newly created Texaco Marlboro McLaren Super Team, led by Emerson Fittipaldi in the iconic M23, that had a 3-inch longer wheelbase that gave it improved weight distribution from being fitted with a new bell housing spacer between the engine and gearbox. McLaren swept both the Constructors and Drivers titles that year. 2 years later, James Hunt won the Drivers' Championship for the second time, also starring in the M23. The McLaren racing team merged with Ron Dennis Project 4 Racing Squad in 1980. John Bernard, a designer interested in employing carbon fiber composites, was brought back by the merger, and he immediately set about introducing a full carbon fiber racing monocoque with McLaren, the first of its kind in motor racing. Carbon fiber had previously been employed in aerospace applications, but it had never been used in a complete race car monocoque, making McLaren a pioneer in this field. John Bernard would also go on to pioneer the semi-automatic gearbox. With their new addition, the MP4-1 starting a new series of McLaren cars, and McLaren's use of carbon fiber in motor racing, this period signaled unprecedented levels of stiffness and driver safety to Formula One, as well as incredible race success for McLaren. In 1984, McLaren sent its racers, Niki Lauda and Alain Prost, into the Formula One season in the MP4-2, which featured a shorter engine and the larger 220-liter fuel cell. This was enough advantage for the 2 drivers to finish top of the drivers' standings, with Lauda beating Prost to number 1 by just half a point. McLaren also claims the Constructors' title by a landslide margin, having won 12 of the 16 races that year. Incredibly, both Lauda and Prost drove the exact same car through all the races without needing replacements. The next year, it was Prost's turn to claim the driver's title, as he stayed ahead of the pack in McLaren's upgraded MP4-2B, which helped McLaren to another Constructors' title as well, despite its best driver from the previous year, Lauda, being injured for most of the season. McLaren wouldn't win another Constructors' title until 1988, with the introduction of the MP4-4 and its 1.5-liter Honda RA168E V6 turbo engine. which was capable of putting out in excess of 700 brake horsepower. McLaren won an unmatched 15 of the 16 races that season, and new boy Ayrton Senna picked up the driver's title despite having been disqualified in one of the races. They went on to win 4 more Constructors' Championships, all with variants of the MP4 series. In 1989, they won with the MP4-5, 1990 saw another win with the MP4-5B, and 1991 they won with the MP4-6. They won their last Constructors' title in 1998 after they had ended their partnership with Honda and started a new one with Mercedes. Their last championship-winning car, the MP4-13, was fitted with a Mercedes V10 engine that helped them to 9 of 16 race wins. In 1988, Ron Dennis, the team principal, and South African designer Gordon Murray began developing a new car for the road in August 1988, and it was finally unveiled in 1992. Ironically called the F1 road car, it was created after McLaren expanded into road car manufacturing. The supercar, which featured a novel 3-seater design with the driver sitting between and slightly forward of their passengers, sold for £600,000 and was limited to 106 units. To buy one today, you'd probably need around £10 million. Over the next few years, they released more models of the F1, with the race car, LM, and GT versions hitting the market between 1994 and 1997. The F1 made history as the fastest road car of its era and had speeds of up to 240.1 kilometers per hour. Not a single production car could match that pace until 2005, when the Bugatti Veyron was introduced to the market. Later, the company partnered up with Mercedes-Benz on their next road car after the F1 series. That car was the incredible McLaren Mercedes SLR, which accelerated from 0 to 60 miles per hour in as little as 3.3 seconds, generated 626 PS, and was miles ahead of its time when it was released in 2003. The collaboration with Mercedes ended in 2010 when Mercedes established its own Grand Prix team, and this led to the formation of the brand McLaren Automotive. It was through this new department in the McLaren family that they truly carved a corner for themselves as arguably the most accomplished producers of supercars. It took only 1 year after McLaren Automotive came to be for the first car to roll out. Named after the successful McLaren race car from the 1980s, the McLaren MP4 12C launched with the original, Coupe, and GT versions in 2011, making it the first car since the F1 to be independently produced by McLaren. By 2012, they added another to the family, the McLaren MP4 12C Spider. They continued production of the MP4 12 series until 2015, but that wasn't the only thing that kept them busy. In the period between 2013 and 2016, McLaren launched no less than 6 different series and 16 cars in total. These include the legendary McLaren P1 series, the McLaren 650S series, the McLaren 570S series, the McLaren 625C series, the McLaren 675LT series, and the McLaren 540C. McLaren Automotive enjoyed great commercial success with their new rollouts, and enjoyed critical success as well, as critics marveled at the quality and uniqueness of each series despite being released within close proximity of each other. Galvanized by this success, they unveiled plans in March 2016 to produce 15 more cars in the next 6-year cycle. They outdid that number, producing an incredible 22 vehicles in 6 years through their project called Track 22. These cars, divided into 9 series, have been heralded as some of the most sophisticated cars on the supercar market. They include the final entry into the 570S series, the Spider variant, McLaren 720S series, the McLaren 600LT series, the McLaren Senna series, the McLaren GT series, the McLaren 620R, the McLaren 765LT series, the McLaren Speedtail, the McLaren Artura series, and the McLaren Elva series. By 2018, they were selling at least 4,806 cars per year, a far cry from the 106 F1 cars sold in the 90s. Through mergers with a number of major players and spin-offs of the McLaren Racing Company and McLaren Automotive, the brand has continued to uphold the virtues held by a man who once built a car from scratch at 15 and won a Grand Prix at 22. Could Bruce have guessed just how successful the brand he nurtured would be? Who knows? If you've enjoyed this video, you could check out other car videos on our channel.